with Renee. All right, everybody, welcome to this special Saturdays with Renee on a Thursday featuring Renee Johnston.
We need to do like a
Jared Ball,
Saturday,
FD.
not Saturdays with Renee. Not
A not Saturday, not Saturday, not. But shout out to the patrons. Big thanks to you. Please invite others to join you, and those who may see this at some point later on. Again, why aren't you a patron? You know what I'm saying?
saying.
Renee, what are we doing here? What have you done?
Why you always got to put it like that?
I don't know.
Well, I think if Kamala would have won, we would have got an extra 4 bands, and then if we got an extra 4 bands, they can afford Patreon. So I think it's that's pretty much why we ain't got people here. Yeah.
Interesting.
I guess that's one theory. I guess. I mean, I don't know. So on Saturday, we had the conversation with the Abandoned Harris folks. Shout out to Abandoned Harris. And to my surprise, FD was in the chat. Surprise. So there was a lot of communication in the chat, and it is so hard to keep up with when it gets like that. And I know there was something about data, and there was some other questions about, I guess, the Abandoned Harris plan in general. And so I, in the chat, had offered and asked FD if he would be willing to join. I don't know if you realized it was me who was on the screen. I have no idea. But then you and Jared worked it out. And so now you're here. And
yeah, I needed time to prepare because I wasn't about to come up. Well, no. First off, I wanted to be respectful because I've done lives and talks with people and had the chat get rowdy and buck wild and been really embarrassed. And so I was like, I really don't want to get into all that in somebody else's channel. I don't want to do unto others, yada, yada, yada. But I also, I'm greatly here because I want to kind of help have you all whom I trust help me refine some analysis I'm working on for some future content. So this is not like me jumping up to the stage to talk my shit and tell you why anybody X, Y, and Z is wrong, yada, 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 or nothing like that. I hope that, because the chat, anybody's chat, but specifically y'all's, sometimes they be trying to start them wrestling matches as soon as they think that one is coming.
No, and we get it. And you try to be the Tyson of YouTube. So you at your training camp, you went to your getting your little sparring together before the big fight. And
wait, we didn't. Please tell me you didn't think you're not calling out chat Jake Paul, are you?
Oh no. My God!
No.
No,
I mean,
no.
I hope you're prepared for Tyson to lose.
Wait. I am, which is one of the problems that I'm having. But just real quick to clarify the metaphor I was attempting there. I'm saying his big fight is with his audience. He's saying for future content, so he's in the gym getting himself together. That's what I was. No, Keontae, I'm sorry. I can't. I've gone I've done a Renee level rabbit hole and dive into this fight.
Oh no, you didn't.
Seriously, and I'm very concerned. I am very concerned. The experts, what I think I've learned about fighting over the years, I'm a little concerned. And because I've put so much weight on this.
This is either going to be a worked shoot, meaning it's going to be fake, or Tyson is about to get worked. Because, look, listen, I love Tyson. The video that made me say, no, I'm gonna do this for real. I'm gonna be a video essayist for real. I'm gonna tell these stories of my Tyson video. I love Tyson, flaws and all. That man is 58 years old.
That's
30 years off recovery from cocaine addiction, porn addiction. Been smoking weed for the last 20 years.
And shrooms.
A lot of shrooms. He's fighting a roided up white boy from the Midwest that is a high level athlete. Like Jake Paul is not just a random influencer. People sleep. Jake Paul was a top tier athlete in his little home state. He is not no little skinny, random scrawny white boy. He's won every fight except one. He's dominated almost all his fights. He's been training consistently for like a decade now. He's going to whip Tyson's ass.
But the other problem that I have is that I watched one of the fight influencers that I check in on, and he was at one of the open workouts, and he did a 180. He said, I thought Tyson was going to win, but then when you see him pass the little snapshots on YouTube, he's an old man. And they started saying it's going to be what happened to Evander Holyfield when he fought what's his name. And it's not, at some point, it doesn't matter how good you are if you can't move. And Tyson fights straight up too. That's the other thing. He's there's all of the peekaboo style requires quickness and youth.
Yeah,
I'm just worried, man. I'm just worried. So
yeah, I can't. Okay. I can't. I know that's not involved with all that, Matt. No,
you look cool. Like you're not feeling it.
Okay. Yeah, I just do.
No. So here's the thing, right? So I'm old enough to remember being outside at the people's house down Utica Avenue, and somebody yelling out the window, the fight's about to start. And by the time you get upstairs in front of the TV, the fight's done, right? Like it's over. So I am utterly unprepared to participate in this madness. So I have not watched.
So watching live when he lost to Buster Douglas.
Yeah, I can't.
And I remember going into that fight thinking this is going to be a cakewalk, and watching him lose was like a complete. So just real quick, I'm gonna play it again tomorrow on the remix, but just real quick, Kim sent me this. I'll play it in full tomorrow, but this is what we need for inspiration. That time that this British dude told Marvin Hagler that no black man was going to take his title. Glorious. And Hagler beat this man. The video literally tells you he beat the man so bad it says his nose moved to his cheekbone. And he punished him slowly for round after round after round, and then the British fans threw stuff on he had to be escorted out of the ring when they announced his victory, because the British fans started throwing stuff, and he got mailed his trophy. But this was meant to be inspiration. But this was a prime Hagler and a trash talking Brit. But yeah, anyway, it was a great moment. But I don't think we're going to see that tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think obviously socially we don't want that to happen. But, and then also probably socially, we still probably holding on to Mike's punch and hoping that he catch him and then knock him down if that punch still hurt. So I don't know.
Roy Jones said it still hurt. He said it's 4 years ago, but he said even in that exhibition, Tyson was hitting it. He said it hurt for days. But Jake put on all this weight. He's young.
Makes him slower,
and he's on roids.
Right,
roids though. That's the other thing.
I'm not gonna watch it though. I can tell you that I ain't gonna watch it.
I'm watching it. I can't help it.
Yeah. You can text me when it's done, Jared.
Text you when it's over.
Text me when it's over.
Oh my goodness! Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the Patreon.
Shout out to the chat. I know. Thank you.
I ain't never seen the Patreon chat. This is way. It's lighter, but it's better. We don't have a random ADOS troll sneaking in to start talking crazy.
Yeah, we don't really rock with them. We soda over here. So I guess then, you know what we should do then? FD, let's start. Like you said, you're trying to pull information together. So is there anything in specific that you're plotting around trying to figure out? But why don't we start with what you need and then we can go from there?
So y'all know, I mean, Jared, I think hit a proper note in saying, I'm in a weird space. My heart is with y'all. My money is with people that are more moderate and often get scared when I start talking, sounding too much like y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I find myself, I feel like my genuine best value is being an intermediary between a large population of people that have maybe this type of politics in their heart or in their spirit, but aren't manifesting it, aren't really ready to kind of like engage with it fully. Like I have people that I see in y'all chat that I used to see in my chat. They don't even fuck with me no more. They're like, we can't fuck with FD no more. FD to such and such. And I'm like, you know what? That's cool. If y'all left me to come over here, then that means I'm doing my job. However, that does present a challenge because I find myself when I'm critical of establishment politics of the Dems, there's some people that are like, how could you say that? Do you want Trump to win? But when I'm not critical enough because I see the angle or I see a different angle, then I have people that are like, yeah, that's why you're a dirty lib and you support genocide, et cetera, et cetera. And so I popped up that day because I was actually working on something. When I saw that you all were talking to the abandoned Harris people, I was like, oh, I really want to hear this. And I'm not going to say I was disappointed. There were some things that I heard that I was unsatisfied with. And some things I heard that I was just like, does the data actually support that? Specifically, my first reaction, which has caught some ridicule to Kamala losing their election, is this was at its core about misogyny and racism at its core. Now, I'm not saying that the bad failures of neoliberal politics from the Dems over the last 30 years now aren't a big part of it, or that Kamala ran such a great campaign and all the other glaring factors that I think everybody knows. I'm not saying those weren't things. I'm saying that when you look at the brass tacks of the situation, if you just look at the numbers, preliminary at the time, I had looked at the numbers. To me, the evidence pointed to enough white people didn't want to vote for a black woman. So they either stayed home or they voted for Trump. And so I had people push. I obviously had people that was like, yeah, you're right. And then I had people push back and I was like, okay, well, let me like do some digging. And so I did some, I guess let me pause there because when I get into the analysis, that'll take like forever, not forever, but I want more time. But let me pause there kind of like for like response and conversation.
So when you say that you think it's because of misogyny and racism, right? Are you saying that the 10 million about votes that the Democrats lost between 2020 and 2024? Because Trump's votes, they didn't, as the numbers keep trickling in, I think it's a little over 1 million, the differential in how many more votes he got this time than he got in 2020. So it's not a huge differential, right? So basically the same people voted for Trump again, right? With a few more.
Right.
So you think that loss of vote is about her race and sex and not about her lack of policy and failure to do the things that the majority of Democratic voters wanted her to do?
So that's kind of where I think the nuance is needed. I would actually say no. I think her loss of vote overall is exactly as it's called, which is she as a candidate nationwide didn't motivate people that were tired of Dems, not interested in Dems, or not scared enough of Trump to come out and vote for her. I went on record. I voted for Kamala here in Georgia because I was in Georgia and I was like, my vote makes a difference. If I was in another place where my vote didn't mean much, I probably wouldn't have voted for her. And I think I haven't looked at all the other states, but I figured that her loss of vote nationwide is probably more due to that specific thing, that the campaign didn't really have much juice. Kamala didn't have much juice. The Democrats don't have much juice, etc. And I think that's salient overall. But I think I think it's better analysis to point out how the election came down in the battleground states, of which all of them she lost. And when I look at those, that kind of clashes with that specific narrative, because she actually outdid Biden in pretty much every battleground state from 2020, and still lost because Trump outdid her in all of those states, outdid his own voter count in those states as well. But yeah.
Okay. And I will admit that I did not go back enough to see the differential. So when you looked at Georgia, Atlanta, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, what you saw was that the Trump numbers were higher than they were in the, because she wasn't losing by large percentages in any of the battleground states, right? It wasn't like it was not a blowout. It was just enough to, it was enough for her to lose. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Jared.
No, I'm just trying to make sure I'm following so FD, what is it that exactly you're saying by these numbers? So what is
so just speaking to the numbers, nationwide, she trails, I just looked it up, she trails Biden by about 9 million votes now, with 99% of the vote in nationwide. But that's the whole nation. In the battleground states, in each one of them, as far as and I would have to go back and double check, but from my preliminary analysis, in each one of the battleground states, she actually outdid Biden. So if in Georgia, Biden had 2,000,005 votes in 2020, Kamala had 2,000,006 votes. You know what I'm saying? In Pennsylvania, he had 2,000,007, Kamala had 2,000,008. I think the only place she didn't outdo Biden was Arizona. And I'm not satisfied with the misogyny, racism, explanation. But the other thing that I found is, so like we talked, Jared, you point out some things I was like, I need to further investigate. So like one of the things I would hear from people is that, well, why did we elected 2 Black women into the Senate? Ilhan Omar won her election. And in many of these states, well, a couple of these states had Senate races. Nevada and Wisconsin had Senate races, and North Carolina had a gubernatorial race. And Kamala did better than those senators as well. So like the senator in Wisconsin, she may have lost to him by like 300 votes. The senator in Nevada, she did better than him in Nevada. And then like the 2 sisters that got elected to the Senate were in like deep blue states, so it's kind of like apples to oranges. The point I'm getting at is that when it counted, and where it counted, where real effort was put, and where people had to make genuine decisions about their politics that were ostensibly left-leaning, they came out and voted for Kamala. The gap is Trump outdid Kamala failed to meet Biden's margins in rural and suburban counties in these battleground states. In these battleground states where there were rural, predominantly white areas, where Biden got a handful of people in each one of those counties, which added up. Trump outdid himself in 2020 to a significant extent, which made it so whatever extra votes that Kamala got over Biden, it wasn't enough. And my brain when I isolate those pieces, my brain points to, oh, these are white dudes in the suburbs and the rural areas not wanting to vote for a Black woman, considering who.
So in other words, the Biden-Harris movement, as galvanized as it was, you're saying they shouldn't be excited about having stifled anything?
Yeah, they shouldn't be excited about having done anything. Like I definitely would agree with that. I don't think would they be excited about in this
Well,
circumstance?
their argument was that they unified like no other so-called minority had ever done, and galvanized their vote in such a way to hamper Harris's effort.
Yeah, nah, I don't think that happened at all.
Okay.
The failure of one of her failures was obviously this run to the center, right? And that is if not just that it didn't work at all. The data seems to point to that very few Republicans didn't vote for Donald Trump. And she lost the independent vote. I think I saw that this is the first election where independent voters outnumbered registered Democrats.
Yeah, that's what Ben Norton said. And then when we talked to him, he also said that basically Trump did slightly worse, but basically the same that he did when he won last time or when he lost last time. But she just didn't get as much as Biden did last time, and I think did worse than Hillary, I think. Or yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten through all of them. Well,
she did better than Hillary.
Go ahead. Well, just real quick, I haven't gone through all of them yet, but so far, I think your numbers are actually not correct. Like she did worse than Biden in Arizona. She did worse than Biden in Georgia. Her numbers are not beating Biden in these states from what I'm seeing.
So let me open this back up because I checked this Saturday or Sunday.
You got it. They weren't.
But that would preclude. Let me just look. See it. Election, and I use CNN's election calculators. So like that.
Yeah, that's what I just poked through too.
Okay, so in Georgia, Biden got 2,473,000, and this says Kamala got 2,500,000.
I'm backwards. Sorry, Georgia was the one where she did better, but in Arizona, Biden had 101,672,000, and she has 1,561,000. In Michigan, Biden had 2.8. In Michigan, she had 2.7. In Nevada, Biden had over 700,000. In Nevada, she didn't make 700,000. So I'm seeing she was just lower.
So I'm looking at some of these now.
It may just be the timing. Like if you look on Saturday, they hadn't finished.
From what I'm looking at, she basically tied him in Nevada. She had 703,900, and Biden had 700. She's outdoing him by a couple of hundred in Nevada.
All right, and I checked my numbers.
She did lose Michigan,
so it's probably different now.
She is behind him in Michigan, and Wisconsin, 1.6 mil for Biden. And she got 1.66 mil. So so the numbers still indicate that like overall. So we got 7 battleground states. She lost all of them. It sounds like she outdid. So just re-looking over this, she seems like she outdid him in 5 of the 7. Maybe not Pennsylvania. Let me see. Biden 3,459,000, 3,400,000. So we're gonna say 4. In North Carolina, 2,690,000. Yeah, she outdid North Carolina. So Nevada, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and I think Georgia. So she got 4 of the 7 battleground states. She did better than Biden.
Right, but that was not going to help her win.
No, 4 to 7, I think wins it for her. I think if she wins 4 of the 7, she wins them.
No, I mean like just beating Biden if the rest of them, because remember the other issue is Trump also won the popular vote. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times people get real hung up on this like battleground state thing, right? And I don't know if all the time this battleground state argument is the best argument, because he now has like over 300 electoral votes. Like this was an ass whooping.
Well, so it was an ass whooping. I don't want. Let me make sure it's really clear because I don't know how else this might be used, and I don't want folks to come for me more than they already would. I'm not doing this as like a defense of Kamala, but more like in pursuit of refining the conversation. So I want to make that clear going forward. But if she wins Michigan, if she wins 4 of the 3 battleground states, I think she wins. She beats them. I'm almost positive. So I'm trying to see, where's Michigan worth? Why doesn't it say that? Where does it say the amount? 15. So Michigan's 15. Michigan's 15. Pennsylvania is 19.
So I got a question from I guess when you talk about misogyny and then race, and then I guess the other thing I was thinking of like political science. So I think we speak, and I just got from a panel and it was kind of annoying, but we speak in terms of like representation and I guess talking about how the country is racist. But if Kamala wins, what does that now say about the country? Does it say we're less racist, or because again, when you think about the policies that's behind these people and how it impact people, in particular Black people, I'm just confused about like the thrust when I say that this is an example of racism. And even you can go misogyny too, because as a woman, she's not Kimberly, she's not I'm sorry, Jackie Lukman, she's not those type of Black women. So it don't even speak to the politics. It's more so of race, Black woman. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm
so a couple things. The first thing I want to, you said something I think is really important and that I definitely want discourse on. I don't like, so much of this was not about politics from what I can ascertain. Like this was a vibes election. I think probably the last couple elections probably been vibes elections to like the larger population. Have y'all seen the things where people are like Googling, can they change their vote? People are Googling, did Biden drop out the race the day of the election? You know, so like, and I think AOC did something where she was asking her followers that they vote for Trump, or like asking her followers who also voted for her and voted for Trump, like why? And they're like, because I see you both as outsiders. And I'm like, in what, you know, AOC flaws, you know, obviously, right? But like, in what world does a normal person vote for AOC and Trump if they have an actual political frame to like?
But they don't.
Doing?
And part of what they're responding to is that both of them talk trash and nothing ever gets done to actually change anything.
Right.
So they're responding to so when I hear you say they're responding to a vibe, I hear you saying they're responding to the counterinsurgency psychological warfare. That, you know, because the vibe is that's what has been set up intentionally, and what and Kamala I just think she just didn't have enough time for them to evolve the Obama level messaging because they were rushing and she hadn't been the vetted candidate going back decades like he was. But they were trying to speed run that and it just didn't work. My bad, Geechee. Go ahead. No,
I real quick. So that to that point. So I just got back from this conference, right? And you have, again, Black folks on here. This sister has art space in Decatur where she has a praise house, which is what Gullah people used to use to organize, and i.e. a church. You have this person land, and this person has some a bunch of doing great things with land, but all they kind of talk about is, again, being Black in a space. And then this brother was actually, I don't know, bragging, but he was saying like the Department of Defense even came out to his land and they're working and helping with the project. And I'm like, what the fuck? but then, and then she, anyway, so there was a lot of stuff that was said, and I was like, but then when I get in the car, I'm listening to the radio, and a radio person who sounds like he's, I guess, the head of it, he's saying like, it wasn't our fault. We did not lose. I wasn't playing, I wasn't playing Trump ads to help him win. We can't just play one ads. We gotta get ad revenue. So whoever pays for the damn ads, that's who we're gonna play on the radio. So it's like the argument around that was these independent, entrepreneurial, or whatever media outlets, they need ad revenue, and whoever's going to give them the money, that's who they're going to vote for. I mean, that's who they're going to put on air. And one arguing like what made people choose, right? Well, what if Trump's plan, even though his economic plan is full of shit, if he talks about an economic plan on his radio ad, and then Kamala says we got to save our democracy on her ad, I don't know if I would just blame that on the black woman or misogyny, as opposed to this person probably used the language that these people wanted to hear, and that's kind of why it might have been pushed that way. But
so I just don't agree with that, and I don't see that as even like what happened. So I didn't answer your initial question, which is like, if Kamala wins, are we less racist? And the obvious answer is no. We see that from the Obama era. I guess what I'm interested in figuring out is how to communicate and accurately and effectively, like, the actual state of affairs for the voting population, for lack of a better way of putting it. How do I explain to people that these people are really dumb, really racist, and fairly, these people are really uninformed, really dumb, really racist, whether it's COINTELPRO counterinsurgency, whether it's because we got a generation of kids now voting that came up under No Child Left Behind from Bush. I just talked to Anthony Fantano, and we were talking about I can't remember the doctrine, but like the orders that allowed the big corporations to all buy up all the media and like have all the media owned by
the Telecommunications Act, 1996.
Yes, yes, the Telecommunications Act, like
signed by Clinton.
Right. Like, how do we? Because the biggest thing from my championship fight is there's a collection of people that watch this type of content, that consume political discourse as entertainment media, that I think don't understand that we are still very much in a like rarefied air, a unique bubble. And so they're shocked and surprised when the Kamala's campaign goes the way it does, when it doesn't work, and when Trump is elected in a landslide victory. And one of the things that, so going back to the original reason why I reached out, is when I heard the abandoned Harris people say Kamala lost because of the Free Palestine movement. As much as I wish that were true, I don't think that is. I think she lost maybe Michigan because of it, right? And I think when we don't put the preeminence of that movement hand in hand with the reality of the situation, you know, I don't know if we're doing our job. You know what I'm saying? So
just to help, I hear you. What then are you saying accounts for the precipitous drop in her vote count relative to Biden? Are you saying that people, maybe it wasn't just the abandoned Harris per se, but are you saying that the support of genocide had nothing to do with this move by so many to independence or not voting?
If I had to, and this is not a thorough analysis yet to completely solidify what I'm saying next, but if I had to like do a regression table, you know, I like to do a regression of to explain a social phenomenon, I feel like that would come toward the end, like at the lowest end of the table, to explain what happened.
And then real quick, Kai's question here, but if you mentioned if she wins Michigan, she wins the election.
If she wins,
she has to win more than Michigan. Yeah, it has to be more than Michigan.
If she, because I think I said she outdid him in she outdid Biden in 4 states. It was Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. If she wins those 4 states, she does win the election. She can lose Michigan and North Carolina still. And she outdid him in North Carolina, but I think Trump won North Carolina last time. So, you know, and that's bigger than that. That's also just the electoral college bullshit as well, which is a whole other conversation. I feel like I feel like nationwide, in places like maybe California and New York, Illinois, because I think Trump won way more in those places than he did in 2020 or in 2016, right? I think there was a depressed vote in those types of places where the Abandon Harris campaign, along with her campaigning with Liz Cheney, sent liberal and leftist people home, or made them stay home or vote third party or not vote at all. But I think nationwide, the vast majority of people, they care enough to say, I think this is bad. They don't care enough to say, we're not supporting the regime that's enacting the genocide right now. I just don't think, I think that's moral and righteous. I don't think it's an accurate description of the American population. And from what I've pulled out of looking at these battleground states, looking at the differences in votes, and then also looking at her opponent, right? I don't think that's the case. And I'm not, and this is not something I'm happy about or solid in. Because if we look at, so how would you all, aside from what's going on with Palestine, when you look at specifically the battleground states, what do you think most explains what happened there? The fact that she did do relative as good as Biden in most of them,
Well, there's also the issue of the Democratic voter suppression, right? Like, how many people just opted out in Georgia because they decided to throw folks off the ballot? How many people opted out in Pennsylvania for the same reason, because they decided to throw folks off the ballot, right? Also, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not, I don't know that the numbers will ever be able to fully say with 100% certainty what role Palestine played, but the Muslim American population in Michigan, Arizona, and Pennsylvania are high. These are not places where there's small Muslim American populations. They're high. They're high enough to make a difference, given the differential, right? Like it's actually high enough to do that. That said, it's a correlation that you may never be able to do, just because if people don't vote, no one ever talks to non-voters about why they don't vote, right? They just blow them off and say, well, they just didn't vote because they're stupid and they don't participate in the process and blah, 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 blah. But they miss that sometimes people actually make a decision not to vote. In North Carolina in 2022, the Democrats got caught out there lying to voters and pretending to be the Green Party in order to get someone thrown off the ballot in 22. Wow. Right? So these are all places where the Democrats have made asses of themselves. So that's why, right? One is it Arizona and Nevada, where there was a takeover of the Democratic Party, and so they just took all the money and didn't just let the people who won literally couldn't do anything. Wow. Because the outgoing Democratic leadership took the money, locked them out of all this stuff. These are places where Democrats act like assholes. Right. And so people don't want to be bothered with the Democratic Party because they prove that they will speak about democracy and all these things, and then they'll turn around and completely shit on democracy in a general sense, right? And so I think that also has an impact.
Do you all follow Greg Palast's work? Have you ever?
Not familiar.
No.
For years, I've been following his work.
Is that who you mentioned when we talk? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I haven't brought him up in a minute, and I had just started to look at some of his analysis. It's been years since, but a lot of his work has been around voter suppression, theft of votes, and whatnot. And I was just looking at his website here, and he's calling it vigilante voters have had a lot to say with the election, and by that he means people that suppress and block the vote. In his analysis, he said that the last presidential election, 2.7 million provisional ballots were rejected by the Federal Elections Assistant Commission. And then he's saying that this year's was the most Jim Crow racially bent election he's covered in 25 years of reporting, suggesting that through statistical analysis, I'm not clear how he's reached his conclusion.
He's talking about for this election that just passed?
For this election, he's saying, he was reflecting on what happened last time and saying that this one is even worse. So he's saying that if 2.7 million ballots were rejected last time, he's expecting that something worse apparently has happened this time. Ballots ending up in the dumpster, voters purged from voters' rolls, which was his big thing previously. And so I haven't really gone through all of this, but this time around, but I've historically found him to be sound in a lot of his reasoning, and just to the point that I think both of you have raised a little bit here, something that I think we could all look into if we're interested, is some of the claims around what happened to he's saying, this Trump-backed group that he calls the Vigilantes Inc. He said 2 months ago they had already challenged ballots of over 850,000 voters, overwhelmingly citizens of color, with a goal undoubtedly met of challenging 2 million by this week. So again, I haven't gone through this. I just was curious if any of you have, and I would encourage anyone to consider looking at, they did a film of it. Is that what you sent?
Yeah, I think that's the trailer.
Okay. Oh, no, this is the whole film.
Oh, that's the whole thing? Oh,
it's the whole thing. Got Martin Sheen doing the intro and everything. Look at that.
Link that.
I guess we're going to be watching that then.
All right,
put that in the chat so I can watch the link.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on YouTube. I didn't know that was the whole
thing. The link is in the show, the private chat, but I'll share it with the chat.
So, FD, what if a lot of people are doing in their mind the heart and money movement? So their heart might be the right thing is like a black woman, but according to Trump's policy, they think Trump gets them more money, so they, I guess, do not vote.
So the other thing is that it's racism, misogyny, and stupidity. It's fools.
The new evil triplets.
Wait, when you say stupidity, can you clarify? Like when you say stupidity,
so I feel like
they're trying to get the bag though. Because remember you said the heart. You said your heart is with us, but sometimes the bag is over here. And what if they're doing the heart and bag dance though?
Because I know where my bag is. Like I have a good analytical acumen to understand that. So one thing I found that really tripped me out is that in all those battleground states, specifically, well, not all of them, but at least some where I could see the Senate race, there were hundreds of thousands of voters collectively. Let me not say that. There was a chunk. I don't remember the numbers. I don't want Renee to check me, but like, nigga, nope. Because I said the wrong number. But I do know this, that there were enough voters in all of those states that came in, voted for Donald Trump, nobody else, and left. They didn't vote on no initiatives. They didn't vote down ballot for anything else. Or at least from what I can see, they can't. But they definitely didn't vote on the Senate race because there's like large gaps between the Senate votes for Republicans. The Senate votes for Kamala and the Democratic senator votes are about the same. Kamala usually is more than them, but only by thousands, tens of thousands. But let me see if I can remember which one it was. That was like the smoking gun for it. So Trump got 16 million for that. Let me go to this real quick because I think it was Wisconsin.
And we just for the record, I agree with Dante's point in the chat. In general, I don't like the stupidity claim argument either.
But yeah, he didn't get to finish.
I know we're waiting for the clarification. I'm just filling space by responding to Dante there. I agree.
3.5. 3.5. Yeah, so in Pennsylvania specifically, Donald Trump got 200,000 more votes than the Republican candidate for Senate. So around 200,000 people went into a voting booth in Pennsylvania, voted for Donald Trump, and did not vote for the the Republican senator candidate.
Did they vote for the Democratic senator, or you're saying they didn't vote for anyone else at all?
I would argue, let me see, let me go look again. So Kamala got 3.4 mil and that person got 3.36 mil. Yeah. So it looks like they didn't vote at all because Kamala got 40,000 more than her senator. So there's always going to be more people that vote for president than there's always going to be some people that do that in every election that happens. The gaps for Trump in this election are pretty, in my opinion, pretty big. So in this particular case for Pennsylvania, he has 200,000 more votes than the Pennsylvania Republican candidate. Kamala has only 40,000 more votes than the Pennsylvania Democratic candidate. And that is a pattern that happens in a couple of places from this election. And so that indicates that there are some people, let's not call them stupid. When we call what is it, low information voters is what they like to call them to be nice. But there are people who voted for Trump because he was Donald Trump, because they believed in Trump. They there's also the research that showed that they did a blind test of like the policies for both candidate, and doing the blind test, 80% of the people preferred Kamala Harris's policies. So like there's a lot of evidence that points to a portion of Trump's voters.
But the reverse too, though, right? Because like I'm with her, it's not gone out of our mind. Like, people voted for Kamala just because she's a black woman.
But also Pennsylvania flipped their Senate seat. It went from that's what it says. It says it flipped the seat, that it went to the incumbent. The incumbent was a Democrat and the Republican won.
Yeah.
Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're not reading that wrong. I don't know how I don't think that changes what I'm saying though.
I mean, enough Republicans signed on with Republicans that they not only got the Republican president in, but they also flipped the seat from.
Right, but we're talking about the 200,000 people that didn't bother to vote for didn't bother to contribute to that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear what you're saying, but I guess my thought is your suggestion is what? That just because they went in and only voted at the top of the ticket, because some people
not just at the top of the ticket, it's like at the top of the ticket for Donald Trump.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think to me that's a big part of the conversation. Like if this were Kamala Harris versus Mitt Romney or a typical milquetoast Republican, I would probably not even bother like having this discourse too tough, because I'm thinking about what a normal person should think between a successful black woman politician and a literally convicted rapist, treasonous, felon, election denier, racist. Like these are all things that are documented and replete.
They are, but you're also you relieved Kamala of a lot of descriptions right now.
And that sounds like the job description.
She's a cop to us.
No, she's a cop to everybody, because that's what she called herself.
She called
herself the top cop. That's her name for herself. I didn't call her that.
I agree what you're saying, and that's kind of my point. I made a whole video, spent 30 minutes dragging Kamala for being a cop, right? But that's to us.
You voted for.
But I had people in my chat saying, "How dare you talk about Kamala Harris that way?"
But that's the problem. Don't you think?
No, I do think that's a problem, but I'm saying that to go to the point you just made, which is most people in America are not bothered by her being a cop.
I think you might be incorrect about that.
What
her entire legal career is as a prosecutor. And if you are a person who firmly believes that the justice system in this country in particular is problematic because it does not actually do any justice, you might take issue with someone who has played a role in that for their entire career.
Renee,
whether you call her a cop or not.
I agree with you there. I made a video called "Fuck the Police." Like I know what you're saying, but I also know that that sentiment is it is not a sentiment that is shared with the majority of Americans, of voting Americans.
All right, so
I just don't believe that.
But real quick, so I stopped on one. But what I'm saying is, even in the way you described her just now, right? This professional Black woman, right? You leave out all the things about Kamala that are problematic. And so you were able to list all the things about Trump that are problematic, and they're all correct. But you left out everything about Kamala Harris that's problematic. Her ties to corporation, her ties to billionaires, her ties to dark money, the fact that she was a cop, the fact that she kept Black people in prison, the fact that she imprisoned Black women for being parents of children who didn't go to school, right? The way she thought they needed to. That, like, there are a
But I'm
bunch of
hearing two
things about
different
Kamala
arguments
Harris
here.
that are problematic that I feel like that's part of the problem, is that everyone focuses on Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad.
Yeah.
And you forget that Kamala is not a good person. She is a genocider.
But Renee, what I'm hearing, but that's the argument FD would need to take to the Black audience that he has that's telling him
Right.
why, you know, what I hear FD saying now is the majority white folks that voted for Trump don't care that she was a cop, don't care that she did all of those things. They only care that he's white, she's not.
But that's not the issue, though, because Trump's differential in votes is not that significant in comparison to Kamala's differential from Biden. So if you dismiss all the things that the people who did not vote for her took issue with, because you simply see her as this professional class Black woman, and you forget all the ties that she has to all of the negative things, those could be the reasons that 10 million people did not leave their house and go vote, that went out and voted for Biden.
And so I want to again just make sure that it's understood that we are in agreement on the issues of Kamala, right? What I'm trying to point out is that we are in the minority in that we see those as issues. Everything you said about Kamala, in a world where misogyny and racism aren't significant, right? Everything you said about Kamala should make her by far the superior candidate to milquetoast, moderate, independent thinker from Fayetteville, Georgia. Right.
So wait, I'm sorry, FD. So you're saying that the vote differential that Renee is describing is based on misogyny and
no. I'm sorry.
Now I'm losing. Now maybe I'm just confusing myself. So why are you saying then, FD, this drop off? Because Renee, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying the drop off is because people realize she's whack. Basically, and that's the distinction.
And I think you're giving people too much credit in saying.
And what do you and you without calling them stupid, you're saying that they got tricked by Trump? Is that what you're saying?
So the first thing I would say is that the best analysis is to look at what actually happened in the battleground states where it counted. Right? That's my first statement. Because they tell two different stories. If you just look at the national vote, you see a big gap between Kamala and Trump. And that can speak to a lot of things. I don't think it speaks to people being upset with her being a cop or being connected to billionaires, et cetera, et cetera. I think the average person doesn't even know that. Or they know she was a cop, but they don't care. And they don't know that she's connected to billionaires. And I think when you bring the analysis to the battleground states that we know, that's where they spent the most resources. That's where they put their best effort into getting people out to vote. That's indicative of, I think that's more indicative of what this election is really about and what really happened here, because that's where it counts. And then when you look at those places, she did better than Biden. So if there's any place where the things that we don't like about Kamala would show up, it should be the places where it counts the most. But it didn't show up there pretty much at all, except for Michigan, where we have the strongest concentration of Muslim Americans in the country, if I'm not mistaken. Pennsylvania and Arizona, right? Everywhere else it didn't show. And I think the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, and I'm still like wanting to parse through more things, like even though I gotta go in like 15. So we have to continue this. But the reason why is because I think it's just not true that the average American, the average voting American cares about Kamala being a cop. I do not believe that. I'm in community and with enough people of a variety of political backgrounds. I'm in my comment section. I'm surveying the landscape about this stuff. I saw on TikTok, I don't know if y'all saw this, the way the liberals, specifically black women, stowed they whole behinds on TikTok, going to Starbucks, mad at the Palestinians about this situation. To me, that indicates that there's not a lot of people that care about the issues that we're trying to put forward as the major issues. So I don't think it's accurate to say people smelled the corporate neoliberalness of Kamala and stayed home. I think the margin of people that felt like that were not significant. I think the biggest margins speak to in those battleground states, those uninformed voters that came 200,000 strong to vote for Trump and nobody else. And but I will say nationwide, I think Kamala didn't inspire and people didn't care enough to go out and vote for a person that they didn't like that much in a state like California or Illinois, where they knew it wouldn't make a difference.
So I think again, I'm going back to the heart and money thing, and I think so. This argument or this piece of work could possibly kind of fall into like conversations around identity reductionism. Obviously, it could be like a liberal argument,
right?
And I heard when you said like, oh, like I don't want to I want to put politics aside. It's like there's really no way to engage with this situation and be apolitical. Like there's just no way, right? And then I think again, I do think people are more sophisticated politically than we allowed. I'm not saying they're fully politically sophisticated, but I do think people can determine simple things like, I guess, cops and all these other things. But in terms of the having a political line, if they believe this person who's an entrepreneur, successful businessman versus a cop or whoever, career politician, again, in a popular sense, this type of country would vote for a Donald Trump because he crosses those things. And not to mention, he got a couple bullets thrown at him, and he survived that. So, I mean, there's a lot of political theater that's happening that if you want to say the battle for propaganda, he probably won that battle for propaganda against her, at least, because when you, and then in terms of like the black and white thing, I'm never going to forget when Butch Ware and Jill was on Breakfast Club, they was very explicit, like you the brother with the other, right? And they try to make it the best way possible about race in this black woman. That black woman has a white wife. White husband, and her politics is white as shit. And Jill called her politics white as shit. So I feel like there's no way to like not just thrust this conversation into like a liberal identity reductionist content.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I don't want to end up doing. like low key, I don't want that to be my end take, right? But I don't feel like my analysis has led me away from that. If that makes sense, and when I look at those numbers, when I see that 200,000 people voted for Trump and nobody else, like when you say that, Trump is an entrepreneur, yada, yada, yada. Like if Trump was black with his same resume, do you think he could have won that propaganda war with the same tactics? You see what I'm saying? I think the obvious answer there is no. There's no way he could have. And like, does the fact that he got shot and like, does the fact that there's, and this is all probably other side of propaganda, but like the conversations around the upward swing in the Latino vote, right? Kamala lost Asian women. And to me, that's the biggest smoking gun. I almost forgot about that one. More Asian men, no shade in the chat. Like, don't clip me on this, but I'm gonna just keep 100 right now. No, more Asian men voted for Kamala than Asian women. Do y'all know why that is? because Asian women are the most likely group to marry white men out of any other race of women other than white women. And this is facts. In fact, Asian women marry outside their race more than black men, but like a nice amount of percentage points. And like, so like that is a proximity to whiteness, like indicator. You know what I'm saying? The Latinos that voted for Trump, these are the Latinos that think they're white. And I can't. Sorry, my phone is going off over some fantasy football shit. Let me put this down. So I can't put all that away. I can't put all of that away to center the political explanation that I would like to be there. And I say that not as like some type of own, but like I feel like so I went into this election thinking that Kamala would win and being and like be preparing to say, okay, how do we mobilize and organize against a Kamala presidency with a petite bourgeois black population that's going to be having brunches and and open bars for the next 18 months in her honor? Like, how do we mobilize against that? Right? When that didn't happen, it was like, okay, clearly we have to. Clearly, I was wrong, and just in general because I had the wrong analysis going into it. But now we have to say, all right, what's happening here? Why did she lose? And what do we learn from that to keep that same energy, to keep that same goal going? And I think assuming that she lost because of her politics is just inaccurate and like puts us further along in, I guess, the goals we have than we actually are. So and that's kind of, go ahead.
So I love the nuance and some stuff I definitely want to look into, but I still can't get away from that. It is still about politics. That if she and the Democrats actually were worth a damn and had offered anything and been real, all of these little issues would have been less like the Asians who want white men, Asian women who want white men would have maybe been more likely to be like, you know what, I want that white man, but these are the policies I really need. But she didn't do that. So, and I know that there's more to be said about this, but I quickly looked up what I think is the study you referenced about the, sort of the blind voter poll that people preferred Harris's policies. And this is just very quick cursory look at it. But to me, this is the point. The 8 policy issues that the Post claims are the ones that they use to determine the difference between the two candidates, I think is scandalously limited, perfect for the Washington Post. And this speaks to my point. The number one issue here is involuntary institutionalization of people diagnosed with mental illness. There's no way voters are seriously making a decision based on this when they're voting for. Same thing with automobile efficiency, increasing the military budget. Are we really supposed to believe that Harris and Trump's? They don't even specify what that means. Are they claiming that Trump was going to spend more than Harris? Based on what? That's reducing regulation on cryptocurrency, while she's claiming that cryptocurrency regulation was going to be a benefit to black people and black men in particular. What she was really being paid to do, which Trump is going to do because he was paid by the exact same interest, is reduce regulation. But the point is, these are not issues. In other words, if nowhere on here is an expansion of healthcare, nowhere on here is an end to genocide, nowhere in here is an end to AFRICOM or all wars, nowhere in here is actually bringing parity to workers pay, paid vacation, on it. Like, there's no serious anything in here. This is part of what is the fraud of the entire narrative schema imposed on all of us. So what I'm just saying that if she had said, I'm going to do these things,
maybe a damn baby's bond. She didn't even do a baby's bond.
She did, none of that. She said specifically to black people, I'm not doing anything for you. And then, on Israel, nothing's going to change. So my point is that if she did that, if the Democrats were really, really serious, I don't believe that they would be losing really any of these elections. But they're not serious. They don't want it. And they ran a terrible campaign with a terrible candidate. And then that allows for all of this, I think, important nuance that you're bringing to because once people start turning away from something, once they see that there's really nothing on the table, then yeah, I want my white man. I want my this. I want my, I want my symbolic that. I'm going to drive over here and only vote for him and go home. It's like it becomes a whole other thing. So that's just.
No, I think that's exactly what I needed to hear. Because I think what you just kind of pointed out is we can identify the identity politics within the end result, right? But the Democrats still suck. Like that's
Exactly
all the things we hate about the Democrats, all the mistakes that they make, the reason why they didn't put some of the policies you just mentioned, the reason why, although Bernie imperfect, they cheated him out of the election in 2016 and essentially 2020. The Democrats have gotten exactly who they wanted to run for president every year, except for 2008 when Obama ran and they were like, we might have to move Hillary ass out the way. Like that, every other time since Clinton, they have ran exactly who they planned on running for a 2-3 year process, right?
Not this year though. Yeah.
Well, this year was, I guess, chaos because Biden had a senior moment halfway through. I don't know the full story. I got to look into that too.
Man, they failed democracy. You are killing me with this like halfway. Let me be nice about the Democrats. Like they literally put somebody on the top of the ticket that nobody voted for. So can we just call and I think. And this is like it's an opinion, right? And I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna check all these numbers and I'm gonna share my spreadsheet when I'm finished because I do think looking at the numbers is a valid thing to look at. But so far, like she ain't beaten Biden by millions. She's beaten Biden by sometimes thousands, right? Like it's not a huge differential that she's beating Biden by in these these marginal states, which I also think is something that should be considered. That said, I think your general analysis that people aren't really paying that much attention, I think it really underestimates like just common sense things, right? Like they did a whole primary with Biden on the ballot, and then you turned around in July and Kamala was the candidate, right? Like there's nothing more obviously not democratic, right, than throwing someone at the top of the ticket that no one voted for in a primary, right? And you could be the slowest person on earth and still recognize that the names are not the same. And I think that is a huge, huge ding on a group of people who spent months telling you that even though Biden was he had dementia, he was falling upstairs, he was forgetting names, all these things, right? But we got to save democracy. So even though he's not a good candidate, we got to save democracy and you're going to have to vote for him anyway. And then they just turned around and threw democracy out the window and put somebody else on the ticket. And I think things like that point really directly to the fact that people recognize that the Democratic Party has nothing to do with democracy. Right.
So Renee, I think that's true. And the person that won tried to take over the government. He tried a coup. So like I can't look at
and
that.
And the Democrats failed to prosecute him.
I agree, but that's
all these things fall into the same category, right? So, like it all goes back to in the end, and I think I'm gonna let you finish, but I think in the end, what it infuriates me sometimes about people is everybody just looks at what the Republicans do, right? Mm-hmm. And they say the Republicans did this thing at point D. And they completely dismiss all the shit the Democrats did at point A, B, and C that allowed the Republicans to do the thing at point D, right? Like everybody's carrying, he's gonna activate the National Guard. For 3 years, Biden could have put in something in that bill that would have prevented any president from being able to activate the National Guard from a governor-friendly state to go into another state that didn't want to activate their guard. They were well aware that this was a loophole in that law from 1898 that Trump took advantage of when he brought the National Guard in so he can hold the Bible up upside down, right? And yet and still, even though they knew, they did nothing about it, right? But now they want everybody to be up in arms about the fact that he could bring out the National Guard. Well, y'all contributed to that, right? They contributed to the fact that women's rights went out the window. Because when Obama could have did something about it, he made it very clear that that was not his priority, right? So all of these things all play into it. And listen, could I be giving the general public too much credit? Possibly, but in the end, almost 10 million more people were like, fuck these people, I'm not coming to the ballot. And it cannot just be because they're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like that's a real underestimation of the commonsensical and logical things that were very in everybody's face that media and everybody just tried to play like wasn't a thing. Like, we just gonna pretend like she was on the ballot all along. It's nonsensical to pretend like that wouldn't have had some impact.
Two things. So whenever you say he fell up the stairs, that shit always get me. I almost passed. Like, when your ass fall up the stairs, you got to go the fuck home. Go home. But also, I think, again, in terms of media and tactic, do you believe that, although it was said, jokingly, but when Trump was able to call Kamala Comrade Harris and they're going to be socialists, and do you think that the Republicans was able to kind of feed off of the Red Scare and all this other clownish stuff?
Hell yeah.
Despite this woman with bad politics actually being black, but like I think, again, as Renee and Jarrett said, like they ran a bullshit ass campaign, and they almost was like, well, it's a black woman and black girl magic, and if anybody disagrees with it, we're gonna say misogyny, y'all black men scared of voting for black women, or racism. And then that was their whole game plan. We gonna scare them with them, and then use that the race. And
then pull out Dick Cheney in this state, and then Beyonce in another state. Like y'all don't. I know. I'm talking on both sides of my mouth, and I gotta run. I wish I could stick around. We gotta continue. Renee, I look forward to like seeing more when you crunch the numbers from a different perspective and see what you come up. I may have to fuck. I was planning on putting this out next week. We'll see how this works. But I say all to say, I think the general population thinks she's a communist. Like, I do. I think the general population thinks he's a socialist. They interviewed Mexican Americans after this election and asked him about Trump's plan, and they said, well, he's probably not going to deport as many people. He's not going to deport anybody that's not doing crime. People don't know what tariffs are. Like, I think we're undermining. So like every critique, I haven't heard a single critique of the Democrats tonight that I don't agree with, right? But what I think as a whole, a lot of leftists are missing is a point that one of my creator friends did a couple of years ago. And they were like, we often get accused, especially like in my space of grifting to the left, because that's where the money is. That's where the easy grift is. And he had to point out that, no, if you look at just the numbers of subscribers to me, I'm one of the largest people in the game, definitely the largest black person, right? I am 4 times as small as Candace Owens, 4 times as small as Matt Walsh, 10 times as small as Ben Shapiro. You know what I'm saying? That means something to what the average American political education actually is. And I think by focusing on the political wins that we have in this coming out of this election, we are missing the fact that the real numbers battle is not even anywhere near where we are right now, and at least in some of our conversations in the aftermath. And that's kind of the main reason. But I want to leave with saying y'all definitely helped me, because I can do this would be a perfect bait and switch to like bring the different audiences together that's gonna be mad at me about this. Is I can come in, I can point out how the data points to a little bit of misogyny, little misogyny, little racism, some classic joints from American population. But that quick analysis Jared just did, because I hadn't actually looked at the study yet, of the fact that the policies they put out there speak to the core of the failure of the Democratic Party and how they've been trashed for a long time, and why they're trash. Because they're trash on purpose. They failed to run a good campaign on purpose because there's limitations to what their political project can produce in a capitalist system where they're beholden to billionaires. So there's a lot of value there. I really appreciate y'all bringing me on to talk. Much love. I'll pop up next time y'all get into it around this. I'll at least try to pop up in the chat. I'm gonna turn my alerts on and make sure I show up, because y'all caught me at a good time, because I was in the middle of writing some of this shit when y'all started. But I gotta run because I'm already now a minute late.
No
Peace
problem.
and blessings, y'all.
All right. Peace.
Right on. Take it
Thanks
easy.
for coming.
Peace. Thanks a lot. All right.
So,
all right. Shout out to FD. Appreciate him coming through.
I mean, listen, he came through. It just, I just don't. So a friend of mine had sent me an article, an editorial in the New York Times, and the dude was basically saying like the Democrats lost because too many people who don't have college diplomas voted for Trump. Like that's literally, like his premise was that more uneducated people came out and voted for Trump than educated people came out and voted for Kamala Harris. And it's just a bad premise, I think, from the start, because if you look at the exit polls, the income differential does not show that there was this huge income differential based on, that there was this huge difference in voting based on income. That's not what the polls showed. Now, that said, a lot of this stuff is not going to be like clear for another year, right? It takes forever for them to run all the numbers. But in just really like even looking at what FD is talking about with like, she beat Biden in some of these swing states. She didn't beat him by a lot. Like, it's not like she got 1 million more votes than Biden got, right? Like she needed to do more than like just a little bit better. And I just find it, somebody in the chat said wild. So now that word is in my head, and I agree. Like, I find it wild to just be like, well, people are stupid and that's why they voted for Trump. Like, that's wild to me. And he backed off of it, but I just feel like, if that is your initial hypothesis, you might have a hard time really looking at the data and really understanding why. Like, if you go into it thinking people are stupid, you're gonna have a hard time like really analyzing the data.
I mean, I agree with that. I think he's also going into it trying to do what most people are encouraged to do in this moment, which is to parse out all of the different reasons why different people did what they did, which is not unimportant. But I still think the number one important thing is what these elections actually are and are not, and what that Democratic Party in particular was and was not offering. So even before I can get to an argument that has at times been historically accurate around whites and others voting against their interests based on their own racism, I have to get to the first part, which is that there was nothing offered to anyone that was genuinely in their interests in the first place. And that's why I wanted to bring up that report he referenced to see what were the issues that people were being encouraged to think about. And it's the same bullshit that prevents us from having any real discussions. So that's why for me, and that's why when he called the other day, I was like, look, same thing I said. I'm interested in all of these. I'm not uninterested. I'll at least say that in all the details of who voted and how. But I'm really only interested in the fact that the Democrats offered not a damn thing other than not
Right.
being Trump, and then we're expecting everybody to fall in line.
Right. I
And
mean,
it
to
didn't
me,
work that way.
10 million, you already had, and I'm finding some really high numbers for registered voters, and I'm trying to confirm that this USA Facts website that's run by the dude that used to work for Microsoft, from what I've seen so far, it's a good source. That said, I'm not 100% sure, so I hesitate to be like, this is what they found. But in September, that site reported that there were 184 million people registered to vote. That's a really high number. Sorry, correction.
Say that number again.
186.5
million.
in September. Yes. That's a lot. Now,
And
so when I saw that number, I was like, is this site
wait a
accurate?
minute.
Like, is this correct? Because if that's the case, it's not just that 15 million people didn't vote. It's tens of millions of people who didn't vote.
Wait. But to me, that sounds again. You're gonna have to walk me through this. I feel like it's the home ownership shit again. Because the country, what is the eligible voter total in this country? It's got to be somewhere. I'm assuming less than 300 million.
So I mean, it's 355 million people in the United
country,
States, right?
But eligible voters, it has to be a smaller number than that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, 186.5 is a significantly smaller number than 330.
Right.
So it's not.
But the total vote count, I thought, was about 140 to 150 million.
Like 100, yeah, it's like 148.
Well, I know at least the Democrats and the Republicans got 41.
Because I thought Trump got like 70 something and she got 60 something million.
No, she's up to 70, almost 73 million now. And he's just about 76 million.
So about 150 million people voted, meaning only. But I thought the amount of eligible voters who did not vote was way larger than that.
Larger than what? Sorry.
Larger than this total. Because if there's 186.
Well, yeah. Well, if it's
150 voted, so there's about 30 million people that didn't vote.
People who do not.
That's actually smaller than I thought. So I thought it was actually more than that. But that's interesting. But again, still to your point, that's still more than double what they said was this group that didn't come out.
So the differential, when people say 10 million, right? That is the difference between the people who voted for Biden in 2020 and the people who voted for Kamala in 24. So Biden got a little over 81 million votes in 2020. And she's just under 73 million. So, just under, I mean? So she's about 9 million, I guess, and change, maybe just under 9 million. But that's only the differential in people who voted for Biden in 2020 versus people who voted for Kamala in 24. That's not the total number of people who did not vote altogether.
This thing I'm showing says 161.42 registered voters.
No,
and you're saying
2022. That's 2022.
This is telling me. Well, this website is wrong. I'm looking at the bad.
Roughly 200. The Bipartisan Policy Center. Roughly 244 million Americans will be eligible.
How many?
244 million will be eligible to vote in 2024.
Okay, and so and then this site could be correct if it says that there were actually 186.5 million registered, right? Because not everybody who's eligible is going to register to vote, right?
Okay, but then maybe that's maybe where what I was counting, the number who are eligible, not registered.
Right.
Because eligible I thought was always the I thought that was the biggest, the non-registered or non-voting community was the largest in the country. That's what I always thought it was. So if there's 244 eligible,
Yeah,
but only 180
185 registered.
and then only 150 voted,
Right.
then there's still almost 100, like 90 million people that are not voting,
Right.
either because they didn't register or they
They just
registered and didn't vote.
Right. And so and we've had this
Man,
conversation, Jared. One of
that
my
makes
things that I've talked about a lot is the fact that people simply don't vote. They don't participate in
yeah.
the process because they know it's nonsense. So when you add to that the people who are already not invested, already don't really care about this process, already believe that voting is an absolute waste of time, so they're not going to participate in it, right? And then you add to that you have a whole group of people who would have participated if you gave them something to participate for, right? And then they chose not to participate. That's why they lost, right? And so I feel like this argument about misogyny and all those things, does that play a role for the people maybe who voted for Trump? Yeah, it could have played a role for that, I'm sure. But his vote total did not go up that much from 2020. I didn't go back to 2016 to see what those numbers looked like to figure that out. And I guess I'm going to have to do all of that so that I can come up with a comprehensive chart. But in the end, I think if you're looking at it simply from the purview of, well, it was racism and misogyny and blah, 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 that sends people to vote for Trump. That doesn't necessarily keep people away from the polls. And I think that's the mistake in how this is being reviewed, right? Like, you don't vote because you don't believe in the system, or you don't believe in the candidates, or you feel disenfranchised or whatever. You know what I mean? You don't not vote because you're a misogynist. Am I making sense? Like, I mean, and that's
No, to me,
it's me guessing, but
that's how I'm hearing, and when I'm saying that this blame game just allows for a denial of all the actually important issues regarding what these campaigns or these elections are for, how the presidency impacts our lives, what the two-party system is, what the Democrats are, like all of the again, yeah. So that's why, as I'm hearing what you're saying, it's another way, it's informing at least how I'm coming to, making this whole this point, which to me is similar, is in that, yeah, just that. I mean, point to which constituency you want to point to, so that you can to FD's point, to the extent that this is happening, so that you can go to Starbucks and enjoy your latte while blaming somebody else, or and I know he didn't want to talk about it, but so his friends, Olay and them, can go and just bash the left wing without, with and get their likes and subscribers up, and again, not advancing any thought or political activity.
Right.
So I probably asked this before, and it's almost off topic, but I kept hearing the voter score thing that's coming out next year, and it'll tell you, and I don't know if it's fake commercial in Georgia because I can't find it online, but it'll tell you who voted and who didn't vote. It don't tell you who you voted for, but like after a while, Americans will have a voting score that looks similar to a credit score. Have y'all heard any of that or saw that commercial?
No, you talked about, you sent us something on the chat, but I've never.
And I can't find it.
It just seems, but it also seems so like, okay, so all right, so what? Like,
but now those people are going to be targeted and blamed. Like, if your voter score is low, you're the reason now.
But also, people also make the wrong they also make the wrong estimation that people don't vote because they're stupid or uneducated or whatever have you. Like if I live in Georgia and I was all set to go vote for Claudia De La Cruz because I knew she got the signatures and I knew she was on the ballot. And then I find out that if I get there and I select her on my ballot, it's not going to get counted. All that does is solidify for me that this voting thing is nonsense. So why am I bother? What's the point?
I still don't even understand how that's legal, but
well, it shouldn't be. But again, this again points to what I was saying about like giving like this deference to the Democratic Party as if they do things that make sense for the general population. They don't, right? Like if you made it onto the ballot and the Democrats worked until beyond ballots were printed so that you couldn't get a vote, that's wild. It's wild. So if I live there and I'm amped up because I'm like, I got it, I'm going to vote for this third party, whatever, and then I find out I can't do it, what I'm going for? I'm going to go stand out there and do what? My vote can't count. So what I'm going for?
Maybe to wear a voter outfit and take pictures, I guess.
I can't stand you.
Get your
Curtis.
I knew you was gonna do that shit.
That's messed up. That's messed up. Shame on you. Shame on
I didn't throw the alley hoop though. Actually, I was trying to.
You did. You had this.
That wasn't it.
I just don't know. And so now that he's announcing all his people, right? And people are up in arms. Oh, this is what we were talking about. Look at who he's gonna put in. Right? And I'm like, are y'all even paying attention to who these people are? Because his immigration person worked for Obama.
I know that part was funny. I saw that. Yeah.
Well, did y'all see
Yeah. No, but one of the articles. I'm sorry, Geechee, real quick. Whatever his name is, one of the articles I saw did say, but he's going to be worse now. They were like he was held under wraps by Obama, but now, so it's like,
but
why would you pick somebody that you have to hold under wraps if in fact that were true? But of course, yeah. Sorry, Geechee, go ahead, man.
No, I was just seeing if y'all saw the what's the guy? Derek Johnson of NAACP, his explanation of why Kamala lost and stuff like that, which is just as silly.
Wait, what is this?
The CEO.
You saw
the CEO.
I was hoping you were going to tell me. I was hoping you were going to tell me you saw him on the Breakfast Club, because how are they all reacting?
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Are they blaming Jill?
After they got caught out there in a Trump commercial, they better not be.
I mean, the last thing I saw them do or heard them do was give. I think I texted to y'all. They gave Bruce. What's the person? Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh yeah.
Donkey of the day because of some weird stuff for voting for Trump. So that's the last thing I saw. But
Caitlyn Jenner has been said that they're super right wing and conservative. So I'm not.
I know
Geechee's going to watch this for us and take notes and make clips. He's already promised to do it.
That's not true. I got too much to do this week. Man, you know how many things I got to go to the.
I'm not watching.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Somebody else just tweeted me and asked me to watch it, and I said I don't.
Can somebody
I don't think I can
somebody
do
in the chat watch it, and then you can tell us which parts to.
Well, don't we still got some people in our chat over there that go over there? And we got people in our chat.
The word, right?
I don't know if they do go. Please go and
come back and tell us.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what FD does with this information. I am concerned.
Well, he's about to make a grip. He's about to go get paid.
He said money, heart money. Fuck that heart.
He
He
did.
said, from
He
your
said,
heart.
Jared, thank you. You showed me how to get that bag.
Hey, we better get a commission, bro. We better get a little kickback. I need some kickbacks.
But I just also like I want to say to him, you understand that like you're part of the problem, right? Like because if you know, but you willingly do something different because that is the economic step for you, right? And I'm not going to blame folks. We have this conversation also, like people got to, they got to eat, whatever. We all live in this capitalist system, blah, 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 right? But you are feeding the system with this. So if you go on your show and he says, like, misogyny, racism, stupidity, and those are the 3 reasons that she lost, and you don't acknowledge all the other things that are problematic, then all you're doing is feeding the same problem that got us to this space to begin with. So I just don't, I mean, I appreciate that he was willing to come on and like be honest about it and all those things, but I guess I still don't fully, and he had to get off. So I wanted to ask him this question, like, what is it that you want your audience to know? Like, what is it exactly that you're trying to get at when you go in and do this analysis so that you can go to your audience, because you've already made it very clear that you're only going to go but so far because you're not trying to mess up your bag. So
I think there is a left. I don't know if this is FD's thing or not, but I think that there is a left-wing version of what happens on the right all the time, of audience capture to a certain extent. And I think people, they see these numbers and he said he follows the analytics very carefully. And even just from what I've learned, if you pay attention, Google, I mean, they're surveilling us well. They give you very good, very detailed stats about who your viewers are, what they want, what makes people click. And if you I am biased by the fact that this is as much as I have fun out here and do this is not my job. And if this becomes your livelihood, I could see it.
So in other words,
yeah.
he says, clickety clank, the money goes straight to my piggy bank. 50 cents. Shout out to 50 cents.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, and I don't know him that well. So, but when I watch, I consume a lot. I consume a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of the video essays that talk about downfalls of various figures. I'm a sucker for that, and the algorithm knows it. And so I just watched one about Russell Brand, and he did the right-wing version of it, going from a liberal comedian and movie star to a right-wing Christian nationalist, basically, it seems like. And because that's where the money is. So
I
don't know.
So that makes this really hard to escape, right? Like I'm not crazy in thinking that. Like,
no, I think you raise it
hard to.
But I think you raise a very good point that to the extent that anyone is not aggressively challenging what's happening, they're assisting it to a certain extent. So now, if he's monitoring it all, or if FD is able to monitor to what extent his audience leaves to come over here, then maybe we could find a way to assess his work as being positive. But if that many people are leaving and going to rightward spaces thinking they've got their good liberal, dose of blackness from his videos, and now they feel they can go back to their regular
programming,
then but I've had people like, there's been, now, I was just thinking of a personal example. Like, there are times where I'll see somebody, they'll tell me, I like you and so. And I'm like, well, you have to pick one. There's zero way you can't actually like what I'm doing and like them too. So I always want people to a certain extent pick a side. You got to pick a side.
So this part.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and he said that today again. He's very clear on it.
He started with that. He
Mhm.
started with that. And so, I guess that's just my curiosity. I mean, first of all, I didn't think he was going to come on, which like I didn't think he was going to engage.
I
in this
wasn't surprised he
conversation.
did. I wasn't surprised.
No.
I mean, I guess I'm kind of glad he did, but at the same time, I feel a little bit like
Used.
Yeah, like I
Because
feel
when I get
like
cynical, that's how I
right,
feel.
like I feel like
You know.
he came here, he got enough information to confirm that he shouldn't do what he's about to do, but he's gonna go do it anyway because that's gonna be the thing that allows him to maintain.
Well, as much as we provided some beautiful analysis, all we're gonna fit into is the disclaimer part of the portion. Disclaimer. That's it. And he's gonna do what he got to do. But so I think again I think Jared, you hit it on this. So his initial intentions to do this type of work could be the reason why, again, his bottom line, he's a business person. And I think me and Jared talked about this before. Like when I started like the Geechee motivator stuff, that was the intention wasn't to like go viral and make money or whatever. So when I stopped actually doing those content, like I did lose subscribers and it did go down because I just, it wasn't a thing. So I can understand that if his intention is to do one thing and that it is to get audience and whatever, so be it. But then coming here to kind of, I guess, I don't know if it's street cred or radical cred or whatever it is, but that could, yeah, it could be a thing.
I don't
but
know.
at the same time, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go.
I admit I'm susceptible to those who are willing to engage their left. So for years, Cornel West made up for some early errors in his career in my eyes because he sat with Dr. Clark in a public forum
and debate
and
didn't win, but he debated.
He took a L. He in a hostile space too. Like it was not a 50-50 environment. So, and for years, I mean, so I'm a sucker for that. And that's usually my only real issue is when people bash the left. That's, or falsely represent themselves as the left. But other than that, but at the same time, I feel it too. Like, and I've never been sure how to do it. Like, when, even when I was doing little pirate radio, every once in a while, somebody with a relative name would want to do an interview. And I'm like, but only like 2 people are going to hear this. And then, but I feel like it's on some level, I on one hand, I would want to feel like they're just trying to give, they're trying to be engaged with the people no matter what. This is, they're trying to support. And then and then sometimes it's like, they just want to be able to say, I sat with somebody at the far bottom, at the far deep end of the other well, and the other end of the well, and gave them some of my time.
So Jared, I'm curious. So also Cornell was going toe to toe, not winning either with Daruba and Sister Soldier too a couple times on Donahue. Yeah. But would you say, so think of online, as they call it, online left, in a space as a community, and you're organizing, right? And if you're power mapping or you're like trying to figure out who's who, if FD is an influencer who actually has a large influence in the community and he has an ear to you and y'all have a cordial type of conversation and y'all, I guess y'all listen to each other, is that still somebody in an organizing manner, somebody to flip because of the impact he would have on, I guess, a larger audience?
So that's the other thing.
Can he be flipped?
So he's done. Possible. So like when asked, he's stepped up for Cop City. He stepped up for the Pendleton 2. He, so, and this is sort of always the thing. Like if people in activist spaces want outlets that exist to reach larger segments of the population, we're going to have to accept some of these kinds of politicized spaces. If otherwise, it's going to be, we're just going to do the rounds. We'll go to all the Black liberation medias. We'll go to all the, and we'll do the little, corner of YouTubes. And so that's always the thing. Even again, the famous examples of how Dr. King used the media back in the day, they still needed there to exist a Black commercial media that did, regular commercial media stuff, so that they were big enough to attract an audience that when King and them need. So I don't know. It's always, it's a, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. I just, I'm watching all these things kind of play out, and I'm watching people, go into absolute hysteria about what's coming. And, I've said before, like, I can't see into the future. I don't know with any 100% certainty, like, what's going to happen after January. But I do know that the person he's bringing in to be the person who does his immigration stuff is the person who worked for Obama, who threw out more people out of the country. Right? Like, that is something that I feel like people aren't paying attention to. People are up in arms about Matt Gaetz being the attorney general, but no one cares about the fact that Merrick Garland is behind the African Socialist Party being accused of playing with Russia, right? Like, no one's concerned about all the things that have gone on with this current DOJ. They're talking about the National Guard, but we seemingly forgot that Walz called the National Guard in his own state because people didn't like that Black people were getting killed by police officers. They don't understand that, as I tried to explain to FD, like, the current policy in place regarding the National Guard is what it is because Biden has refused to do anything about it. They're up in arms about this woman from New York who's going to be the UN rep. And me personally, not for nothing, I'd prefer for the person who is going along with white supremacy to look like a white supremacist. Like, I feel like it's better that it's her going to be there raising her hand at the UN versus the Black lady that's doing it right now. Like, like, none of the rules are changing, and none of them were going to change even if it was Harris that had won. And I just, this idea that things were going to be better, people just keep harping on that. And I've been trying to come up with an analogy to get people to understand why that theory doesn't make sense, right? If I've been stabbed 49 times and I am dying, the person who comes along and stabs me the 50th time that kills me outright is not worse than the person who stabbed me the 49 times prior, right? The whole system is problematic. And I keep feeling like everybody just keeps pushing this. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And no one is actually acknowledging all the things that have remained the same, static and solid for decades now. Nothing has changed. And I just don't, I just feel like this looking at it in the sense of, well, why didn't people vote for her? They didn't vote for her because she sucks, and because the Democratic Party sucks, and because the system sucks. That's why she lost.
I did try this week saying, when it came up, a version of why didn't people vote for her, it was, well, why did you? And in the struggle to come up with decent answers, that's where I'm trying to keep the focus. Because she was, well, why did you vote for her? Well, and it was all, either nothing or something silly about what some promise, some vacuous promise she made to the Black community. But and that's the point. There was no real reason why you voted for her other than she wasn't Trump. So that's why
Right.
people didn't vote for her, because she wasn't offering anything.
Or that warped single issue that they might have in their mind, like that the one single issue that they probably heard over and over again without any like level of sharing the policy that particularly relates to that. So
that was one thing I did look up again because I had forgotten the timeline as it happened live. That one of the issues that came up was, well, she would have protected women's rights,
which we've already clarified. There was no guarantee
First of all,
of that.
There's again, it was lost under your
Right.
guy,
and she also made it very clear all she was going to do was sign the bill if it came to her desk. There's no.
But then I also went back and looked. Remember, there was the whole thing with the nominee that Obama wanted to push in at the end of his term, and then backed up. They allowed the Republicans to stall that and not have it not happen. Allowing Trump to put in, wasn't it Garland? No.
Who
did Trump put in the first time?
Garland and he couldn't.
Right, that's the one. But they let that. But then Trump came in and put in somebody.
Yeah, it was what's her face? It wasn't it Comey Barrett? Wasn't it? Wasn't it her?
Yeah. And then, but then also the Democrats didn't make Ginsburg retire, so she died under Trump. And
Right.
and allowed him to replace. So it was like, the Democrats aren't doing what, like, they're not even fighting right. They're not even fighting. They're not fighting hard. And so any of the more recent moments where they could have done something, where theoretically they could have been in place to protect that right to choose, they didn't do it. And now you want to use that issue in the hopes that the newest nominee in Harris will do what her party had not. I mean, so that was the other thing. And everybody's talking about the notorious RB. What did they call
the notorious RBG? That nonsense.
I was so pissed when they were doing that. I hated that. And she had said some wild shit about black people or hip hop in particular. I remember looking that up. I was like, where did that come from? Did she even claim to like Biggie or rap music? And it was something the exact opposite. She had said some snarky shit.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I got to roll.
Yeah, we all got to go.
We all got to go.
We all supposed to go. Each, you got to go cut up that video.
I know. Go do it. Actually, I think ZZ? Somebody said they'd watch it and let us know.
Somebody said they're going to watch The Boys.
I think ZZ will definitely do it. ZZ got time. He traveling. He got time. He got time today.
So we could do that.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
Lord. All right, good people. All right, everybody, please. The patrons are here, so thank you all very much.
Do the things.
Anybody sees this later, do the things, and we'll catch you next time here with Renee.